Hello, this is Luke Turner, and we're back with another episode of building an exercise tracking web app from scratch. So let's start with the things. Client-side code bundler, running the server, and then we are ready to get started. As a quick side note, I updated my mic. I reduced the gain a little bit because I noticed that I was peaking, I believe they call it, the mic volume getting up into the red zone during the last stream. So I'm going to try to talk with my mouth a little closer to the mic when I'm speaking quietly and just have the gain down. We'll see how it goes. Okie doke. Anyway, so we've got our app running. Let's go ahead and open that thing. What's up with that? Oh, I think I forgot to start the database. Did I forget? Yeah, let's do that. Then we can run the server. Okay, here we are. So let's look at our to-do list and see what we want to do next. Having this to-do list is really helpful, especially for this project where I'm only working on it like once a week. So highly recommend it, because otherwise I would have definitely forgot everything that I had planned at the end of last stream. When I work on personal projects, usually I do it, I try to work on it a little bit every day, so stuff sticks in your head better. But anyway, so we've got customized theme, create page for viewing multiple days at once, add transitions. So customizing theme is interesting because I think that would require us to pull in a Sass toolchain to modify the Bulma colors and generate a new Bulma CSS file with those themes, or maybe there's some UI for doing that online and it just spits out a CSS file that I can import. I don't really know. But I'm not going to work on that one today, I think. This page for viewing multiple days data at once would be a good thing to do. Add transitions, that's probably something that can be more of a filler task. Durations other than minutes. Let's actually do this one. I've been putting off this durations other than minutes thing for quite a while, but it's kind of important. So let me illustrate the problem. Let's add a new set here, interval sprints. Does that have duration? Yeah, so this is the duration here. And you can see it lets you put in a number in minutes. 1 minute, right? But a lot of times with interval sprints, for example, my duration is actually only going to be like 10 seconds. It's like you run as hard as you can for 10 seconds or 15 seconds or whatever. And so it's like, do I want to have to do the mental math and be like, well, let's see, 10 seconds, that's like 1/6 of a minute. So, what is that here? I don't even know, like 16%, 0.16, I don't know. Anyway, whatever it is. Actually, I'm kind of curious now. So that's 1 divided by 6, 16.6. Hey, it's pretty close. So anyway, somebody could do this, but it's weird. You don't want to have to be thinking about that. You want to just put in 10 seconds, 15 seconds. Or if you've got a long run, maybe you want to put in a number in hours, That one's not so bad though. So I might actually just do minutes and seconds. We'll see how it goes. Somebody can always do 120 minutes or whatever. So the problem with that though is handling multiple values in the UI, basically. In the back end, we actually already have a data structure that can support additional values. So let's look at our schema here, just resituate ourselves. If we think about where is the type here? Yeah. So the type for duration has seconds, minutes, and hours. So when you're logging this duration, Like this is going into the minutes property of that object. The seconds and hours properties are not actually used at all. So we kind of need to support that. And there's probably quite a few different areas that we're going to have to do it, which is part of why I've been putting it off, but that is okay. So first of all, let's allow people to set multiple values and kind of go from there. Once we can actually set them, it'll be easier to test the reading of them, what they look like in the UI. So in the today page, in the template here, where we define the behavior for duration parameters, we're going to need this input to actually be, well, so there's a couple options here. You could do 2 inputs, which is probably what we'll go for. Another option you could do is 1 input where the user types in a colon themselves, like they could do, 0:30. I can't even type in a colon because this is a numeric input. It's not allowing it. But if it was generic text, somebody could input that themselves and you would have to format it, like split out those values on the back end, which is not the best, but it's easier to style. But let's see if we can get it working with 2 inputs here. And then actually get that to look decent as well, which will be the big challenge. Okay, so we're going to have 2 inputs. And we're inside this cell. Let's just start with that and see what that does. Okay, so they're stacked on top of each other, which is interesting. Let's open the Bulma docs again. See if we can combine those inputs together. Ideally with a colon between them so that it kind of looks like one input. I don't know how possible that's going to be here. At least not without a bunch of custom styles, which I kind of want to avoid too much of. So the inputs doesn't have an input group. Where is that documented? Let's see here. Yeah, form add-ons, I guess, is kind of what we want here. Okay, so let's see here. So form add-ons, field form add-ons, or field has add-ons. I've written this so many times, you'd think I'd remember it by now, but has add-ons, control. I guess that's another thing with just doing something every week is it's like easier to forget some of these little details. Okay, and then you've got your input, and then you've got another control, and then you've got your other thing. So it would be like this, and then another control, and then this, right? Let's see what that looks like. Okay, sweet. That looks pretty good, actually. Kind of. But the idea is there. So this one is going to be minutes. This one is going to be seconds. And these inputs, oh, I see. So this is all within this larger control here. Which is fine for all these other parameter types because they share this behavior of having something on the left and something on the right. But for duration, it doesn't really make sense. We still want the clock on the left. But we don't really want min on the right. The right should be seconds, and then min should be kind of on the right here, maybe. Or we would use a colon. Okay. Either way, we're going to need to break it out of the parent control here, I think. I'm not going to want exactly the same logic. Then the other problem with these is these arrows really kind of take up a lot of space because I want this to be a pretty compact control. Let's start typing in one and see what that looks like. So like I'm typing in here, but it's not, there's not like actually space for the characters to show up. Can I see the value in here? I don't know exactly how to do that. Well, it doesn't really matter. Let's try getting rid of this. Okay, so now it just looks weird. Now we kind of see the values, but we've lost our icons and things. Fine. Okay, let's break it out. So let's take this duration check here, and we're going to move that up to the cell. And something like this, if parameter duration, then do these things, right? Yeah. Otherwise, do this other thing. And then here, we're going to need to figure out how to put those other things in there now. So this is all right. Then for the one on the left, this one's going to have an icon. So it would be something like this, and it would be has icons left on the control. Control.has icons left. And I could actually use the, and I can't really use the control mixin. Yeah, unfortunately. So we'll do it copy and paste way. And the icon here is going to be clock, right? Or I think I can actually do duration here and it's going to map it to the clock automatically, right? Yeah, okay, so we got the clock. Although it's disappearing when I hover over it, which is kind of weird. It's like it's turning black. I can't tell if it's turning black or, or disappearing entirely there. Not sure what's up with that. It's only when it's selected. It should be turning blue. Huh. What's wrong with that? It's not supposed to be after the input, is it? Maybe it is. Okay, I guess it's supposed to be after the input. Go figure. And for the right one, let's see. Not sure. Let's see if there's a way to get rid of those arrows. Input number styling. I wonder if this huh. let's just try some of these styles here. So this would be like, well, let's just do this first. And for Chrome, and really like, yeah, it's so confusing. So this one is saying if you have an input with type of number, make it actually look like an input with type of text field, right? Whereas this other one is specifically saying if you have an input of type of number, then don't show the button. And I don't really know why the margin 0 thing is needed. We can try it with and without here. Okay, so this is looking pretty decent, you know. I could have like 12 minutes and 32 seconds. Of course, they're currently both bound to the same value. So if I edit one, it's going to change the other. Okay, now let's try taking out the margin and see what that does. Did it change anything? Let's see. Did that change anything? I don't know. I don't think that really changed anything. So I'm just going to leave that out. Okie doke. And we don't want this on all numbers. We just want it on this particular one. So I'm going to have a, like this whole field can also be called like duration field. And then in our class, we can do duration field. Oh, yeah, right. Let's put it on here. Dot duration field. So if it's like a sub input within this class, whoops, then we're going to apply that class to it, or that style. Okay. Refresh it again. Very fine. Okay, let's actually, I mean, we still have a lot of work to do on the UI of that field if we want to make it look how it looks in my head, which I don't even know if that's going to be possible, but we've got something. So now let's actually make it work, and then we can go back to the style later. So there's going to be two things here. Well, probably more than two, but there's two that's coming to mind. So the ID of these two inputs is the same because they're both using the same parameter. So really I need different like IDs and names for each of these in theory. I don't know how much that really matters, but it's probably a good idea. So let's do like parameter.id plus min, sure. Sec. Okay, so minutes and seconds. They have different names. The other thing we're going to need to do is bind them to different values in the model. So currently this parameter in the model, where is this bound? So parameters is bound up here. MIDV, it's doing this mapping, getting the raw value. Yeah, so this is going to be interesting. This is going to be very interesting. Okay, so let's just get started on it here. So basically this one, you know, it's going to need to be bound to not just the parameter, but the parameter dot minutes, right? And we want to conform that to what we have in the database schema here, or the type anyway. So yeah, seconds, minutes, hours. So it's not like shorthand. And this one is seconds. So that's fine. So now when we bind this parameter, we need to make sure that it's an object and not a string. So currently we're setting this, thing here. Let's look at the getRawValue function. Where is that? I think it's here. No, it's here. Yeah, getRawValue. Okay, so duration. So this is another example of a part of the code that's just returning the duration value as minutes. Getting the raw value, if we look, let's look at all the places that this is used. So it's used, this is where we just were in the today page. It's used in the historical page when we're building a chart. And so this is an interesting case, right? Because we actually might want the duration coerced into a numeric form, like have 0:30, which is to say 30 seconds, automatically converted into 0.5 if we have minutes as like the standard. Or I don't know if chart.js supports like a duration concept in there that we could use. Anyway, so there's that. There's also this analyze historical set data, which is doing the same thing, but for calculating averages and stuff. So here we're definitely going to need to, resolve it to a single number. Pardon me. I just muted the mic for a moment. I had to sneeze there. Anyway, and then here's the function definition. Yeah. Okay, so I feel like getRawValue, we're going to want to continue to have this return a single number is probably the way to do it. And so we have Luxon in this app, right? Have we imported Luxon yet? Yeah. I'm going to do, I mean, I guess it doesn't really, it's not that complicated. Let's just write it ourselves. So we're going to do the standard duration value here is going to be in, kind of makes the most sense maybe in seconds, actually. So let's say like const duration equals value as duration. And then we're going to return duration dot minutes. Is that? Yeah, because we return, yeah. So I don't think we really need this question mark anyway here. But, okay, so we're going to return duration dot seconds, let's start with, plus duration dot minutes times 60 plus duration dot hours. And I don't even know if I'm going to support hours, but I'm going to write the code for it now anyway. Times 3600, right? 60 times 60. I'm going to double check that. 60 times 60. Yes, okay. And what are we complaining about here? Possibly undefined. do that. And do the same thing here and here. Okay. So now that's returning the duration value as a number in seconds. Fine. Oh, so what we need to do now is well, yeah, I don't know. We might adjust this later, but anyway, what we need to do now is not actually use get raw value in this case when we're talking about durations. So, you know, something like if parameter dot data type is duration, then MID equals parameter dot just parameter dot value, right? So now this parameter dot value should actually be an object with hours, minutes, and seconds. But we should actually do this explicitly here. So this is going to be minutes is parameter dot value dot minutes. I don't know if this is going to work, but let's try it. Or 0. So my concern, I don't think that Pug is going to render that. Yeah. It's frustrating. Okay. So we have to do like this kind of thing. Parameter.value and parameter.value.minutes or 0. Okay. And then we do the same thing for seconds. And kind of the idea here is we're making sure to default this to a value. It's got to have something so that we can actually bind to it with this X model thing here. If we try and bind to this property before it's defined, I don't think that's actually going to work. Okay, hours. Okay. Let's, is that it? Is that going to do it? Just like that? No, surely not. What are we complaining about here? Oh, I'm missing commas. Oh, and I need to return. So I don't also run the other logic below it. Okay. Okay. So now, I mean, you can see they're both defaulted to 0, which maybe I actually want to default them to an empty string. Because I don't really want it to just like plop those zeros in there if there's nothing. Yeah, okay, cool. So let's see, if I type 1, 2, 3, what happens? I get an error. Expected string received object. Okay, that makes sense. So now we need to update our backend. So in our parameters here, we've got like reps here is a string. Everything is a string. You know, if I do this medium, that's also going to be string. But duration is an object. But it has the values in there, which are strings. And it has 1, 2, 3, which is great. And if I do that, it has both of them there. So that's pretty sweet. Okay, so now we just need to update our backend to handle that. And then, you know, we can at least set those values. We still have some more things to fix on the viewing the value side. Okay, controller sets, right? This is going to be creating or updating sets are both going to need to be updated. Or no, just updating sets. Yes. And this is using this weird thing here. Is this actually used anywhere else? It is. No, it's not. Okay, let's not have this here. Feels like a weird schema to have to begin with. And get rid of this, or like a weird thing to abstract, I mean, because it's so specific to this one route. Okay. And we will need all parameters. But we didn't solve our problem by doing that, of course. The problem is this needs to be if p.datatype equals duration, then it's going to be an object with minutes, seconds, and hours. Otherwise, it's this other thing. Yeah, like that. Okay. Cool. So let's see if we need to do something in this build set parameters thingy. Like duration, you know, it's parsing out the number, which is fine. But we kind of need to do this for actually all three of minutes, seconds, and hours. So like what if we did like seconds value dot seconds, and value here, why do you think it's a string? Because input parameters is, so this should be, what a nuisance, but okay, string or duration. And then these are all going to start to error because they're not sure whether it's a string or a duration. I'm going to fix that. But anyway, let's do this before we forget. So in this case, value is a duration. And I'm just going to put that in a variable. And, you know, when I'm doing these as's and stuff, it's like, you really should be using a guard function or something like that for this, where it's like you have a function called like value is duration, and it checks whether it looks like a duration. But it's kind of redundant to do that when we're already checking the type of the parameter. So we know then what the value should in theory look like. So we're kind of relying on that instead of having a function where it's like, oh, this doesn't have the right properties. It must not be a duration. You know, if this was more important or more like user focused values, it's like I would have more validation on it. But in theory, you should never get invalid data in the database unless somebody's like messing with the API somehow. Anyway, let's do minutes. Let's actually, yeah. Seconds value. And this is duration.seconds. Okay, and then we'll do the same thing for minutes and hours. Minutes value. Another thing to keep in mind when we're talking about this is, sorry, I can't say it and type at the same time here. Let me just finish this. Hours value. Invalid seconds. Invalid minutes. Invalid hours. And then down here, we would do minutes, seconds, seconds value, I guess. Hours, hours value. And minutes, minutes value. Okay, cool. So what was I going to say? Not entirely sure. But that's all right. So we've got our duration here. We need to update the other parts of this function as well now to indicate, to support the fact that the parameter value might not always be a string. So like down here, we're going to need to do like as string. Fine. To just let it know, hey, this is, okay, what are you complaining about here now? Same thing. Value as string. What? Parameters, parameter ID equals value. Okay, so that's actually, that was probably like that before. Because we're assigning this parameter to this. Parameters, parameter ID equals so this is right, but I need to do something like as intensity value. What are you complaining about now? Oh, no, this would be intensity, just like that, right? Yeah, okay. There we go. Any other errors in this file? No, cool. Alrighty, so now we should be able to actually save these values in the database. Let's give it a shot. 1, 2, 3. No errors. 3, 2, 1. Again, no errors. If we look at the, well, we're not going to see anything in the response. Let's refresh the page here. Okay, they're gone. So it didn't save them. So that part's working fine. This part should be working fine. Let's look back at our controller here. Let's console.log parameters, parameters, parameters. And maybe do this, json.stringify. Oops. Okay. Okay. So that looks fine, actually. Minutes, 1, 2, 3 seconds, hours. So let's, so it might actually be more of a hydration issue. The way we can always tell for sure is, whoops. There we go. If we open Table Plus, not this one, it would be this one. Yeah. Okay, so if we look at our sets here, there should be one that we updated most recently. And if we look at the parameters for that, yeah, we've got our values in there. Okey-doke. So that works. It's just not hydrating it. Let's fix that issue. And what is that issue? The model should be fine. At least it's binding it the one way, we know. Like it's updating the value. It's just not getting the right default value. What if I do, let's see here. Parameter dot value. Okay. What did it log? Did it log anything? Oh, it logged it down here. Right. Data undefined. What? Why is it undefined? Data ID name data. Okay, so this is just a parameter. That's why it's undefined. I need to actually get the value from something. Oh, it's this V that I should be using here instead of these other things. Right? Refresh. Yes. Yes. That console we can get rid of. That doesn't tell us anything new. But now if I do this, 3, 2, 1. Oh, what happened now? Expected string received number. Okay. So these need to be two-stringed. We do have that down here. So I just kind of, because we're duplicating that logic a little bit, I forgot to include this part as well. Okie doke. 1, 2, 3. So, I mean, we got that 0 there. Don't, oh, whatever. Okay, then if we add a new set, a new interval sprints. So now we've got some problems. Cannot read properties of undefined. So in this case, parameters duration dot minutes, seconds. I wonder, See, so this is a case where like I could probably do this. Just a really simple solution, but I don't think it's going to actually work. Yeah. It doesn't work because you can't assign to that value. You can only use that when you're reading a value. So we need to make sure that this object either pre-exists or incorporate the minutes and seconds and stuff into the actual key of the parameters, which would be a little awkward. What I could do is have so why is that happening? If I refresh the page here, the problem is set.parameters, right? Because set.parameters is not going to have parameters for all of the different sets or all of the different parameters until we actually like save it for the first time. Yeah, it's an empty object there. So it's not actually creating this object. So one thing we could do, I mean, it's kind of hacky, but we could add it as a default thing here. But I'm not a huge fan of that. Oh well, let's just do it. Can't have everything perfect, right? So let's see. Minutes, empty string, seconds, empty string, hours, empty string. So now, even if that parameter isn't set, it's still going to have that object, so we'll be able to bind to that value. The problem with this, and the reason that I don't like it very much, is this duration part here. Because we're assuming that the only parameter with data type duration is also the one with ID duration, which, I mean, is true, but there's like a future potential for this project to have custom parameters, in which case that wouldn't be true. Somebody could make something where it's like whatever else and call it duration, runtime or something, whatever they want to call it. And it could have data type duration. And then this piece of code would break if we don't remember to update it, which we probably wouldn't. And it could cause bugs when people start to use custom parameters. So it does make me think, I mean, maybe the simplest option is to actually split this into 3 values. And then what would that look like over here? We're building set parameters. This function would need to be reworked for that case as well if we did want to go with that approach. I would rather have the objects, you know, an object for it, but then it makes the UI more complicated, or the UI logic. So let's just do it this way. We could do, could you just do this? And maybe I'll add a comment here. To do, need to update this for custom parameters. And maybe I'll call that a fix me. Usually I use to-dos for things that like I want to fix immediately, and fix me is for something that it's like, it might sit out there for a long time. More just like a future FYI to myself than like an actual task. Okay. Fine. So with that now, you know, we should be able to line comments not allowed in an expression, because why would they be? You know, whoever wants to put a comment in their expression. Definitely not me. Okay. So now let's do this. We do one, whatever, refresh, works. Cool. So now the problem is that like, well, there's a lot of problems, but one is that the user can't really tell what they're editing here, but we can fix that. But let's also fix the actual functionality on the other pages of the app here. So like if we go, you know, luckily we don't have to do any unit conversion for this. God, how crazy would that be? There was like different units of time in different places of the world. I mean, I don't know, is there some nuance there, or is it all standardized? I don't know. I guess different languages might have different ways of referring to periods of time and stuff. Anyway, I don't know. But let's look at interval sprints here. So if we click edit, this is fine. If we click history, you know, I actually just realized a problem as I was thinking about this. I was like, wait a minute. The problem is I don't want this to be sent when the exercise doesn't actually even have a duration. So I would maybe do something like this, like var set parameters for JS equals set.parameters. And then if set.exercise.parameters dot find. I'm going to need this to also be updated for custom parameters. So dot find, or no. Let's do it like this. For const or var param of set.exercise.parameters. And then we won't actually need to do this. Okay. If not set parameters for JS param.id, if param.datatype equals distance, or duration, I mean, and it doesn't have a value in there, then put in the value. That's what we're doing here. We would do set parameters for JS. I wish I had better autocomplete when I'm in Pug, but I don't. Param.id equals this thing. I also wish that I had formatting, but I don't. Fine. That's life. Okay, so get rid of these. And now it should actually work properly for custom parameters as well. And I think that should work. Let's give it a shot here. Let's go back to the today page. Refresh. So if I add a new interval sprint, does it error? No, no error. And I can do these. And I can do some other value. Refresh. Cool. And if I add something that doesn't actually have duration on it, that's interesting. If I add something that doesn't have duration on it, it doesn't even need to render these things, but it does, I guess. I probably should know this. It's my app, but it's been a little while since I've written this code. So like each of these parameters, each parameter in all parameters, it's hidden. So it actually renders it, but it renders it in a hidden state if the exercises doesn't actually have that parameter on it. And I think we did that because if you change the exercise, it might need to show some of these. So kind of what we need is something that's actually not running these model things if this thing is not a thing. Like this. If I were to do a template x if parameter, yeah, let's just do that. Will that fix it? Okay, so now it renders, all right, with the dumbbell curls. I can add something new here, like deadlift. Works fine. I should be able to set these values. No. Oh, the duration object has to be optional. All kinds of little tweaks. Yep, let's get rid of this constant log too. Don't need that. So the problem here is this has to be optional. The whole object. Okay, so now if I do 1, 2, 3, that should work. Yep. And if we look at these, like it only has the parameter, like that one's weight, this one has weight and reps, but they don't have that empty duration object in there messing things up either. Okay, but if I change one of these, 333, that does the thing that we want it to do. I don't know how that hour 0 got in there, but that doesn't really matter. Okay, but then kind of the test is like, so say I take this dumbbell curl thing here and actually change this to interval sprints. Okay, so I brought up the value without any error. And then if I do this 444, 555, whatever, it works. Does it work? No, it didn't work. What was the problem there? Let's see. So deadlift, you know, we've got some values in here. If I switch that to planks, or no, I want to switch it to something that's like actually got something else. Let's make a new exercise here. I'm going to actually create an everything exercise again. And just give it everything. Okay. Okay, then let's refresh this just to get it, whatever. So if I switch this to everything, and then try editing one of these new values, does it get sent? So that would be assisted. It did get sent. If I do miles, that gets sent. If I do this, though, that doesn't get sent. And that's a problem, must be a problem, with how this if is hiding it and then showing it later. But I don't really understand why that would be a problem, because it should still be able to bind the value. Well, okay, so it's complicated. Part of the problem is this parameters here is based on the parameters of the set that you're editing. So if I were to add, or if I were to change the exercise of the set, it doesn't necessarily update this value at all. So the parameters is still the old parameters, and it's not going to have this object in there. And we really should be getting console errors. Okay, we are getting console errors. Okay, let's try this again. See if we can replicate that. Cannot set property of null. Writing X data stack. I mean, I don't know what that means though. Sorry, I don't know what that means. X if. Does this need to be Booleanized? Shouldn't, right? No. I don't know, like it's like this writing X data stack thing that's kind of throwing me. Like, what is that trying to tell me? I don't know. If I just get, well, okay, one thing. Those need to be indented underneath there. Was that the problem with that? Yes. Thing, indentation. Okay, so now let's try setting this. That should work. That should have been working before. We've got our duration. Yep. Now, if I add a new something, dumbbell curl, and then 1, 2, 3, switch that to everything. See, it didn't even show up because of that X if, presumably. But it's not necessarily that it couldn't show up. Like it could reappear. The problem is the parameters are not actually being updated. And like that's kind of this thing here. So really this, okay, I'm starting to see something. Part of the problem here is that this value is calculated server side. So the parameters object for this thing, you know, this whole cell basically, is never going to change. It's hard coded when the thing is compiled, but it needs to change if, obviously if a value changes, but we have the model binding to do that, but it also needs to change if the exercise changes. We almost need to like regenerate this whole thing. So that makes me think I should be putting all of this logic into the client, which, okay. Let's just comment all of that for a moment and then do a new one here. No. Put that here and uncomment that, I guess. Yeah. And then we're going to try and fix this. So the important thing here is to have the server just pass in the values and have the logic on the client, and that should make this a little more reactive. Like even like this set.parameters, like the problem is that what is the problem? The problem is that this almost, I feel like this needs to be like this, actually. Let's try that. Let's try that. Okay, so I mean, we knew that was going to show up. That's all well and good. Let's do the same thing again, though, where we create a new one, and then we switch it to everything. Okay, it does show up. Okay, so that's fine. And then if we do some stuff in here, is it doing the thing? It's not doing the thing. Other ones are, though. So once again, the problem is now it's showing up properly, but the actual parameters object isn't being updated. I kind of need, maybe I should do an X effect type of thing actually instead here. So let's say X I wonder if that will work. I don't know. Let's try it. X effect. No, let's put it in the data here. Okay, let's rewrite this from scratch. So we've got our parameters. And we want this to be based on set dot exercises dot parameters, or dot exercise dot parameters dot map. Or no, let's dot reduce. Param. And we're going to want to end up with an object. Okay, fine. I'll do it on one line. If you want me to do it on one line, I'll do it on one line. Oh, how's it going? It's going good. Just grappling with Pug. I've got some logic here that's like, it was written where it's calculating this object in the Pug template, and then the client side code just gets like a stringified object. But I actually need that to reactively change when set.exercise changes. So I'm kind of having to rewrite that whole thing, which is a pain. But yeah, the particular task I'm doing today is adding the ability to have not just minutes when you're doing durations. So durations can also have seconds, in theory hours, but I probably won't have a UI for hours. But it looks weird right now, but it's like minutes and seconds. And then there's a lot of things that have to change because of that, it seems like. Okay, so this, I should be able to actually do fancy syntax here, right? ... m. And then it's also going to have param.id is all this other stuff, which there's no way that's all going to fit on one line. How do I do multi-line strings in Pug? Pug strings. Yeah, I mean, it's not really like this. It's more like attributes, multi-line attributes. No, this one. Backticks. If your JavaScript runtime supports template strings. I mean, it should, right? It should support template strings. It does. Yes, thank goodness. Okay, so that should help make this actually a little more readable. And then here, like this is going to return an object. But let's actually do that in a function. Now that we have multi-line support. Yes. Let us copy all of this and put it down here. And then re-comment that. I don't really know why that was still commented, but that's fine. Okay, so we have param. We don't need this. And this would be called parameter, actually. And then we don't have v. So we need to get v. Const v equals set.parameters v, or parameter.id. Yes, like that. Okay. I think that kind of does it. And then so the idea would be like when this select changes set.exercise, then this is kind of weird actually. Still kind of weird. So let's just try it and see what happens. If I switch this from everything to something else, everything to nothing, there was no request, no HTTP request, was there? Why not? Parameters is not defined. It is defined, so there must be an error up here. Yes, canary properties are undefined. Okay, so we've got our set, which is got, yeah, so see, this is another part of the problem here. Eventually, we're going to be able to unwind all of this, or, we're going to be able to work our way through it here. So here, we assign the exercise to the set just as a plain ID. Whereas when it's used in the server-side code, we actually have a populated object. So this is never going to work. What we actually need to do is find the exercise and then do like one of these doodahs. Exercises.find. Yeah, like that. I don't really want those question marks there actually. Okay. So that now it's starting to feel like it might work because when this exercise value is changed, this is all going to be recalculated, right? I don't know. Is that wishful thinking? Let's change this. So once again, I'm noticing that that isn't actually sending the request, but I don't know if that's how it worked before too. But if I do, so let's add a new one here, barbell press, and then change to everything. So this did show up. If I put in some values here, it's not actually doing a request at all. Must be some more errors. Parameters is not defined. Let's clear this, refresh. Wow. Okay. A lot of parameters is not defined errors. I get that it's not defined. Get raw value is not defined. Okay. That's true because that's defined on the server. Sigh. I'm curious, why do you use SSR for this over a front-end library? This feels like exactly what a front-end lib excels at. That's a good question. So first of all, I think you're completely right that this is exactly what a front-end lib excels at, especially when we're trying to share code between the client and the server, which is exactly what I'm getting into right now. But mostly I just wanted to try something a little different. Obviously, SSR has a lot of advantages of its own, but I find that it tends to make the architecture of the app a little simpler. Like one of the advantages of this app is it doesn't rely on any frameworks or any kind of like, server-side rendering of React and then like needing to hydrate that on the client and so on. Or, it doesn't even have any server-side rendering at all. And then it's like you're totally reliant on JavaScript. Originally, I wasn't planning on using this much JavaScript in this particular app though. So you could think of it as like a tech debt choice. Tech debt that's coming back to bite me. But yeah, that's pretty much it. I'm actually working on another project as well, not on stream, because I try and avoid working on this particular thing off stream to avoid, skipping stuff. But I have another project I'm working on where it actually is totally client-side rendered. I'm using like the bun.serve HTTP server, and then Tailwind and ShadCN UI, which I actually finally got working. And React, of course. Feels a lot better. And with like use SWR, or like, React SWR for data fetching. So data fetching is pretty easy too. But I did really like working with Next.js as well, with the app router. Like it actually was pretty, it felt like you're just writing code and then it's like it works in both places, mostly, unless you put a declaration to make it not, of course. But I liked server actions too, because it's like you're just calling an async function, but it's actually doing an HTTP request, but you don't need to worry about like converting values to and from JSON or whatever. It just happens. But yeah, I just don't want to make every app with Next.js. Got to try some different things. Okay, so the problem here, this get raw value function. So we can fix that. Set dot get raw value. And I mean, am I happy with this? I'm not happy with this, but what I could do is put this get raw value function well, actually, let's first see. Let's see if we can do something kind of crazy here. Can I import get raw value from circ models sets, right? Or is this just gonna crap out because it doesn't understand TypeScript in the bundler? I don't know. Let's look at our bundler here. Yeah, it's not happy with that, but that's probably at least partly because of the other things. That's actually not too bad. So if I put it in a util file instead, like let's make a new file here. I'll just call it shared.ts for now. You've been meaning to try out SvelteKit. Oh man. Okay, let's allow that comment. You've been meaning to try out SvelteKit, and watching someone code with that recently, it blew you away how simple it is. Yeah, sorry about the auto mod. It didn't like that it said blew me. Anyway, yeah. I've heard good things about SvelteKit as well. So I feel like that's something that might be worth trying too. I haven't heard much about SvelteKit in a while though. I don't know if it's like, hopefully it's, in the healthy stage of its hype cycle or something instead of like being a dead project, but you never know with front-end stuff when you stop hearing about it. probably still good though. What am I doing? I'm copying this function into a weird utility shared function here. And then these are all going to be imported as types. And because these are imported as types, it shouldn't impact the bundling at all. Convert unit and default unit. So that also needs to be in here too. That's in exercises. And really, I mean, having these things, like all of this stuff could be shared. I just don't really know how I want to structure the code. So I'm just kind of doing this piecemeal here. And then we can see how it all feels. Okay. Okay. So now the front end stuff should be able to build once I update the import. Maybe. Let's see here. Source shared. I mean, it built the thing, right? Yeah, sweet. You're really hoping TanStack start comes through. Yeah, it would be nice. You know, I mean, as much as I talk about having how there's so many different options and like they're constantly cycling through, like it does always feel nice to have another option out there. TanStack start, you know, I was actually looking at the TanStack stuff the other day a little bit for this other project that I was talking about, but I ended up not choosing TanStack start or TanStack router because I thought they had like a little bit too much magic in them for what I was looking for. Maybe if I was doing a project from scratch, like that would be a good option, but to like retrofit that onto an existing project was feeling kind of hard. But yeah, seems pretty interesting. And like the form and query libraries seem pretty interesting as well. Do you know, by the way, like where that came from? TanStack? Like, did that used to be called something else and then they're like rebranded? Okay, oh yeah, I gotta remember to update all my imports. Probably got a lot of imports to update here. Yeah, those have to go away. Find my problems. If only my real world problems were this easy to find. What just happened? Add import from shared. Update import from shared. Okay. This one probably needs something too. No. This one, no. No, 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 no. Yep. Okay, let's get rid of these. Oh, this is where we're passing it into the view. Right. The famous lib from TanStack is TanStack query. Used to be known as React query. They renamed it. The Tan is a play on the words of the author's real name, Tanner. Tanner, huh? I used to have a coworker named Tanner. Now I'm wondering if it's the same person. Probably not, though. After creating a bunch of other libs, he officially designated it as the TanStack. Okay, those sound like something Tanner would do. One sec, got another person here to ban. Okay. But yeah, it makes sense that you didn't want to call it React Query anymore because, you know, it seems like it supports other libraries now as well. That's kind of why I was wondering. Some of the spots in the docs still call it React Query though. Okay. Okay, what am I doing? I'm fixing the imports by clicking through every file to get VS Code to tell me what's broken. Okay, this one has something broken. Okay, cool. I mean, this might work now. I feel like I've said that a few times recently and it hasn't, so no promises. He says as a million errors appear. Okay, what's going on now? User is not defined. Okay, of course it's not. Why would it be defined? That's something we have in our scope and we just need to put in our X data here. So like this, like up here, where do we have, yeah, here, this exercises. So we could also have, I'll put it up here. User is JSON.stringify user. Okay. I am liking using Alpine though, actually. I mean, having to do this like weird client server dance is a little annoying, but actually interfacing with the Alpine library has been pretty nice. What are you complaining about? I missed a plus probably somewhere. Yeah. Okay, now we have a different error. ID is not defined. Right, that's just a bug. So that should actually be, I'll just do like this. Yeah. Okay. Errors. Hey, there's no errors this time. I asked for them and they didn't show up. Of course. Okay, so now if I do that, it did the thing. Love to see it. Refresh. Cool. Now, if I switch this to everything, did the thing, the things appeared. Did it do the request? I think so. If I refresh the page, yes, it did the request. Okay, so now if I do this and refresh, it works. We successfully pulled all that logic into the client. Lovely. Where did that user variable come from? Good question. So we have, I think I have it in the core part of the router here. There's this, oh, it's actually not in here anyway. Basically, it's passed into the view from the controller method. So for this particular page, the today page, the user is passed in here. It comes from the authenticated session on the server. So yeah, there's an argument that it's like we don't actually need to expose every property from the user to the client, which is probably fair. If there was sensitive properties on the user record, it's like you'd not want to expose those. But this is basically what they'll be able to see, which doesn't really feel like that big of a deal considering it's their own user. But yeah, that's where it comes from. Okay. What else do I need to do with that? I mean, the styles for this is obviously a mess. We know that though. Most of this stuff has been fixed, I think. Most of the interactions on this page. One of the things I did notice actually just now is like if I switch this to interval sprints, it doesn't bring up the button. Whereas like if I switch this interval sprints to everything, it doesn't send the button away. And like if I click on this button now, you know, it doesn't have anything to show me. It actually does have something to show me. I don't know where that's coming from though. It's this one, okay. So then the question is, why didn't it have the value to begin with? Or the button to begin with? Like, why doesn't it have the button? And wait a minute, if I go forward, that's interval sprints. That's not even the right thing. So let's try that again. Switch interval sprints to everything. Okay, click that. This is still showing something from interval sprints. Yeah, so that needs to be fixed too. Yep, I think that was probably broken before as well, and I just never noticed it until now. But it'll probably be easier to fix actually now that we've done those changes. So the problem here is this has historical business. And like you can see right here where it's like this link is again calculated on the server side, and it needs to be calculated by Alpine on the client. So let's fix that. And all this complexity is coming because we want to allow people to change the exercise for a given set instead of having to delete that set and create a new one. I could have just let them do that and it probably would have been a lot easier, but I felt like this was the easiest way from the user's perspective, and it's just making it hard. So this would be xbind href is exercises plus, let's do it with the tildes. Might as well. And this is going to be set.exercise in tilde. And then this is going to be date, which we don't actually have, probably. Where did that date come from? I think that's another thing that it's like we have as a value, but we actually need to pass it into the client, and it makes sense to put it at the top of the page here. Date blank plus blank, comma, date. Okay, so that's fine. And that like didn't really need to actually be done in JavaScript, I guess, but it's fine. I don't think the date will ever actually change unless the user is going to a different page. And like here, so this, instead of if has historical, this kind of needs to be an XIF. Template XIF something. And then div x show history expanded. That seems fine. Although we could put that in the XIF as well. Maybe, but let's just leave it as is for now. And then this is fine. This is a thing. Okay. So this is kind of a deeper problem actually than the other thing that we just fixed. Because here we need the historical set data. Okay, let's start there. So suppose I changed this from everything to deadlift. Right, now it's the deadlift exercise. But do we actually have the historical set data for the deadlift exercise? Because we didn't need that when the page loaded, right? We just needed interval sprints and everything. But now we need this new set of data that we actually need to get from the server, which is a pain. Almost makes me wonder if I should just like skip that edge case. but I should fix it. It should work. There's no reason for it not to work. It should just work. So how are we going to make it work? First of all, has historical can no longer be a server-side thing. Historical sets, let's see where that comes from. It's this. Okay, so this is interesting. It's actually getting the historical sets for every single exercise, not just exercises for that particular day. Kind of wasteful. We probably don't need all that data. But it's actually making it easier here because we can assume that historical sets is going to have that for every exercise, even if that wasn't on the page yet. So we can actually still do this. And this historical stuff needs to be in the client. Like if I put that here, so their set is deleted historical sets. Or no. Okay, let's put another X data in here for a moment and think about this by writing some code. So what do we actually need to know? We need to know whether there is a historical thing for this particular set. And that's going to change based on the set.exercise. So it's going to be like historical sets, set.exercise. Cool. Historical sets, this is actually a global thing. So this can go here. So this has historical. And then we could also have, well, that's fine. Let's just leave it at that for now. So then we want to put that over here, I guess. So let's just do that. As historical. And that would just be a string because we're putting it in the stringifying. Kind of confusing. But should work. And then this stuff we'll be able to get rid of. This, I don't even know if we need this anymore. Do we need this? Is this set parameters for JS used anywhere anymore? No. Okay, so let's get rid of that, actually. And I don't think we need this has historical anymore. Let's actually find, well, let's get rid of it. And what about this historical? Okay. That's fine. I'm just going to get rid of that too. Okay, so let's look for historical is going to be replaced with this basically. But again, we don't even need that. Or no, this would be like a text bind, right? Span x text equals this thing 0.date. And then down here, this would need to be a Alpine 4, which I don't remember how those work. Template for color in colors. Okay, simple enough. Template for, or X4, yeah. X4. What was it before? Oh, it's right. I guess I didn't delete anything. Okay. Template X4 historical set in historical. Let's just do it like that. Yeah. And then we can get rid of that. And then this is going to be, okay, this is going to need to be another piece of shared code. Lovely. So X or TD, and then also we need an X bind or X text, which is this. Okay, and parameter, I mean, that should be, so part of the problem is this. I don't know. So kind of what I'm thinking, like this doesn't need to be client side 4, but I'm actually going to make it a client side 4 because all parameters is a fixed value. But yeah, let's just do this. 4 parameter in all parameters. Do the thing. And then all parameters also needs to be passed into the client if it's not already, which would be like up here. All parameters. Quote plus plus quote. All parameters. Yes. JSON.stringify, right? And this is the same thing where like this all parameters object is actually passed into my view. If we go to the router here, it's like one of the values that's passed into every page of the view, just in case it's needed. So it's available in the pug template, and then we're hydrating it into the JavaScript or whatever you want to call that, so that we can use it down here. And then that should be fine or something, except this display string for table, which we'll need to deal with. And then also up here, we can do the same thing. Template X4, parameter and all parameters. And then this could actually just be equals parameter.id. And same thing here. Parameter.id, right? Okay. Okay, let's get this display string for table available on the client. Makes sense to have a lot of this on the client really because it's just munging these strings into like readable shapes. But yeah, what am I doing? Okay, let's just copy it here. So here's display string for table. And again, it's just like converting the values. There's no real reason for it to be. And then we also need this display raw for table, all of these things. We already have convert unit and default unit. We're going to need all intensities. But whatever. Let's start with this. Put this all into shared. Okay. And then import this type. And then all intensities. So this is another one where like we don't want to import it from the model. So let's put this stuff into the shared as well. I had been thinking about doing this earlier anyway. All units, all parameters, all intensities, those can all be shared because these are hard-coded things. And really I should probably have like more than one file for shared code, but this is fine. Until it starts to become not fine, and then I'll change it. But we're going to have a ton of imports to update now, I'm sure. Let's go through and do that. So this one, get rid of those. And then all units is going to import from shared. Cool. Util. Any errors? No errors. Shared, any errors? No. Sets, router. Plenty of errors here. Let's get rid of all those. Get rid of all those. And then these will all need to be updated. Yes. Cool. Metrics should be fine. Let's organize my imports while I'm at it here. I should probably have it so it like organizes them on save. Maybe it does do that. I'm not sure. I don't think so though. It just prettifies on save. Okay. Index, fine. Let's organize those two. Might as well. Auth should be fine too. Let's organize those two though. User, fine. Nothing to organize there, but whatever. Sets. This one has an error, right? Yeah, all intensities. Okay, that needs to go away. And we can organize these imports, get rid of the unused one. And then we need to fix that import now. It would be nice if TypeScript could like, they're like, hey, it looks like you copy pasted this function from one file to the other. Would you like to update all of your imports? That would be kind of a cool feature. It does that if you like move a file, right? But not if you're like copying code between files. Okay, this one, let's just clean up all these imports. Don't need them. That's fine. Probably shouldn't change the order of these imports anyway. Okay. So I should have fixed them all. So why do I still have problems? I missed some, I guess. Can I find name all parameters? Yeah. Add import. Okay. Just get rid of that line and then fix the import here. Okay. Okay, so now we should be pretty good. And if I go over here, I can copy this display string for table, I believe was the function I wanted to export. And I can export that over here, display string for table. And I've got to put it up here too. Yes. Okay. Lovely. Got some more complaints. Not sure how I missed those. Oh, the controllers. Did I not check the controllers? I should have. Okay. Let's check the other controllers. I mean, yeah, I must have missed these. Okay. This is going to be a mess of a commit, but that's all right. Pretty much everything we've been doing so far is actually just in the service of getting this working. But then we encountered some of these other bugs in the today page at the same time. So they're kind of getting blended together. If I was, collaborating with other people on this project, I would be more careful to split those commits apart. But I'm not going to worry about it too much. A lot of times if you're just doing stuff yourself, it's just going to slow you down to try and do too granular commits. Some people like it though, and it really depends. Sometimes I'll do granular commits, but I don't like force myself to if it doesn't feel comfortable. Anyway, so now we should have this display string for table. I need to do underscore set dot that. And then let's see if what broke? Show me the error. Most useless error. Okay. Just, hey, it doesn't work. Okay, was that other error related or not? Let's see here. This is another thing I don't really like about Pug, by the way, is it just gives these like useless errors, you know, not to be too judgmental, but it's like you're telling me nothing. The stack trace isn't relevant. Like the error text like doesn't have a message in it. It just says error. It's like, how do I even find out like what area of the code this error came from, much less what the error is? I don't know. There's no way. So that's annoying. But I do know it's in a Pug template somewhere. And this file, I think, was the only file that I've been changing the Pug template for. So it's presumably in the today page somewhere. Just out of curiosity, if I switch to another page here, okay. Okay, wait, that's not what I want to do. Let's do like / exercises. Yeah, so that does work. So it's not in the layout. It's in the today page somewhere. I mean, if we look up here, JSON.stringify all parameters, like that should be fine. Date, that should be fine. Historical sets should be fine. That all is client side, so that shouldn't really matter at all. And this other stuff we all changed earlier, so that shouldn't really be the problem. It's probably something with this. Let's just comment this part out and see if we can get our template to compile. Okay, it compiled. Of course, we got errors. To do is not defined. I know that, yes. So something in there is causing an error. Oh, it's showing me a more useful error now. What's this saying? Undefined is not an object. Oh, this. Okay. That's annoying. But fine. So this would be kind of the problem here is that this icon is a mix-in. So I kind of have to pull it out of the server side altogether, but I don't really want to do that. So I might actually change this one back to just doing the for what in what. Like each parameter and all parameters on the server, because it doesn't really matter. All parameters is a constant value. But then I need to fix this again. So that would not be parameter.id. It would be, well, still parameter.id, but like that. And then with quote and quote. Yes. Yes. Okay, so a bunch of errors about to do not defined. So what was that to do even to begin with? X if. Okay, so this should be if show historical. Right? That's what we called it up here. No, has historical. Okay. Yes, refresh. Bunch of errors. Historical is not defined. Is it not? No, it is not. Where do I have those? Oh, so this should be this. Yes, that one's fine because it's not referencing the variable. Okay. Cannot read properties of undefined reading date. Okay. So it's trying to read this, but it can't. What if I did this? I wonder if has historical and, well, shouldn't really matter. Okay, I'm kind of curious though. Let's actually try this. And history expanded. Then get rid of this div, or just leave it as a div and get rid of the show. Okay, so now we don't get the error, but as soon as we open one, we would get the error, but we can't even see one because that button that's supposed to show up is not showing up. That should be here. Oh, how many of these do I have? Just this one. Okay, so this should actually be a template x if has historical. Let's copy that from up here. Okay. Okay, so now we can see it. So now if I click on one, boop, it's showing the thing. If I click everything, that one doesn't show a thing. If I click the link, that one, it does work, but you can see, so there's something from today, but there's nothing earlier than today because we just created the exercise today. So it shouldn't actually be showing up with this button here at all, first of all. Same thing with deadlift. Like it just shouldn't even be showing the button. So that way it's not even going to try and render this unless this is set. And that should be okay. Because like for these, it shows up and renders fine. Okay. So why is the button still showing? Let's see what this logs. Two empty. So, okay, so they're empty arrays. Which are truthy. So that's the problem. This has historical needs to be like historical sets question mark dot length. Let's do it like that. Nice and simple. And now it should not. I wonder if there's an issue with this JSON dot. Well, no, that should be fine, right? Let's take a look at our actual HTML here. Look at this. This is like that hydrated stuff. Maybe because has historical could be an empty array or something, it would still be truthy. Yeah. Sorry, I didn't notice your comment until just now, but it seems like you're right about that. And then this particular thing we're looking at is in the individual, so it's like here. Yeah. I mean, it looks like what I would have expected it to look like here. What if I did this? I don't know why this should matter, but has historical is true when length is greater than 0. No, still doesn't work. Okay. The button. It's like the button is not being hid. Has historical. Oh, see, that's not right. It's not supposed to be a string. But it wasn't just a string, was it? I'm confused about that. Like if I look at this again. Oh my God, that's annoying. This has historical business. Okay, so here it actually is a string. Okay, it is a string. Okay, so this can't be in a JSON stringify like this. This has to be done differently. Object is deleted, false, has historical, this other thing. And here we could just do what we had before, just in case it is null or something. And then this other thing we need to do here. So let's actually do this. Okay. Then we have set is this thing. And then get rid of this other stuff. And we don't need that. We don't need that, right? Yeah, okay, so now we have our object with these things in it, and set is set to that. Okay, should be good. Can probably get rid of this X effect, but let's just leave it just in case here. Oh, nice, lovely error. Is deleted is not defined. Where did I use that? Oh. What? I mean, okay, it kind of makes sense. Maybe. But why was it working before then? I wonder if there must be something else going on here. Okay, let's take a look at this. One of these, so I mean, it seems all right. Set is not defined. This is probably the underlying issue. Oh, historical sets is trying to access set, but set is being set here. I don't know if that's even going to work. If I copy this beforehand, that doesn't really make sense, does it? That doesn't make sense that would help. I don't know if there's a better way to do this in Alpine maybe, but I could also put this in a separate X data on the same node. And is that going to work? Like this. Oh, right. Can't have two attributes of the same name on the same element. Okay, fine. Fine. Let's put this other X data thing. We can leave. Let's undo what we just did. Yeah. And we can take this has historical thing, actually, and put it down here. X data, this thing. Kind of weird. I think that should work, though. Yeah, okay. So now we don't even see the button for everything in deadlift because they don't have the option. If I actually switch one of these to everything, or to, let's say everything. Okay, still wasn't happy with that. Why weren't you happy with that? Something that we fixed and then broke later while trying to fix something else. I don't know. But let's pause that for a moment. Okay, so everything fine. If I switch this back to interval sprints now, see the button didn't show up again. But I don't know if that's necessarily because of this. Wow. Reading toString cannot read property of undefined. Is that the problem with that? Yeah, so that was the problem with that. If I switch it to everything, I didn't get a bunch of errors this time. If I switch this one to everything, no errors. If I add a new set, it's fine. If I switch that to everything, errors. Cannot read properties of undefined reading minutes. Does Pug support TypeScript? No. It does not. Parameters duration dot minutes and dot seconds. So like the thing that's confusing me about this is I feel like we can get rid of this console log. I feel like we fixed that problem, but now it's coming back. So this is in the actual input. It's trying to read parameters duration dot seconds. And that should be assigned from here, from the exercises. Exercises.find set.exercise.parameters.reduce. That's fine. I don't really get the problem here. Yeah, I don't get it. Let's see here. So if we add a new one, ta-da, reducing parameters. So it's updating the parameters. If we switch it, it didn't update the parameters again. But set.exercise changed, right? So why didn't it update the parameters? Did it not even get that far somehow? I mean, it's possible, like none of these are referencing parameters, right? Yeah. Let's do this just to double check. Parameter.id or set.exercise. Okay, sign me in. There is no else case if data type is not duration. Could there be some edge case like that? There could be. Kind of the way that this is meant to work is like if you get into this if block, then it returns. So instead of having an else, that's how the flow control is handled. And then this other stuff runs if the data type is not duration. So like as long as we're returning, I think we should be fine with that. What I'm wondering is if there's a possibility it's not actually updating the thing. So let's get rid of all of these. Refresh. Create a new one. Refresh. Okay, so there's no parameters. Fine, because this exercise has no parameters defined. If I switch this to everything, it doesn't reevaluate this thing. But the set.exercise value should have definitely changed. So I wonder if it's because it's evaluating these other things first. What if I just comment these out for a moment just to test it? Okay, so like we see that. If I switch this to deadlift, see it's not detecting the change. Why is it not detecting the change? Is it actually changing? Is the first question. So set.exercise is the thing that should be changing. And that's being set by this. Or it should be. Let's look at our select alpine for a moment. Select alpine. So it is X model. So it should be working. Hmm. Hmm. Why is that? What's the problem here? Let's look at our network for a moment. So we're doing these posts to create, and that's working. It's returning an OK, or not to create, to edit the thing. Yeah. And then it should be mutating set.exercise with the two-way data binding on the select. So why is it not? Let me do x effect console.log set.exercise. So that should always log that when it happens, when it's mutated. So that's that. If I switch it, the new one's logged, so it is mutating. But this other thing is not mutating. I think, I wonder if there's something, if Alpine is not detecting that it needs to be mutated for some reason. I mean, it should be provides the reactive data. I don't know. So kind of what I'm thinking is like, is it possible that just referencing this in the parameter is not actually getting recalculated when set.exercise changes? If that were the case, that would be annoying. Let me see here. Let me try one other thing to see if I understand this as well. So if I do this, set exercise, set.exercise. Okay. And then this I'm going to do actually on set exercise. Let's quote it. Let's do like that. Okay. So we got our set exercise. If we switch it, we don't get the new set exercise. So it's definitely not recalculating this, even just with this value. So I almost wonder if I need to use a different, instead of using data, I might need to use not bind. Hmm. 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 No. Actually, it's kind of interesting, but Anyway, okay. So kind of part of the problem. So one of the things we could do is have parameters be a getter, right? Like this could be like a function that returns this other stuff. But the problem with that is we also want it to be mutable once it's initialized. But we also want it to reinitialize itself whenever this value changes. Whenever set.exercise changes. So there must be a way. Alpine.js only makes the top level. Oh, sorry. Let me skip up a bit. You asked AI about my issue. It says it's not supposed to be reactive by default. It only makes the top level properties of the xdata object reactive. Deeply nested or computed logic is just an initialization. It's run once when the component is set up, but changes will not trigger reactivity. Yeah, so it's like the xdata thing. So I would need to use xeffect. I thought about that. It does feel kind of weird, but let's give it a shot. I don't really like to have like a reactive value and then like use a side effect to mutate that reactive value. It's like, really? I don't know. It just feels redundant, but if that's how it works, then that's how it works. So then this xeffect would have to be this mostly. And then it would be like parameters equals, right? And then this other parameters, like what would it default to? I mean, I guess empty object. Is it going to work? So now if I switch this, it is working. It's working. Okay. Cool. I do feel like I'm probably in the kind of situation where it's like, as soon as I fix this thing, it might have broken something else though. We'll see though, fingers crossed. What was the issue I had before? So switch or select something, switch it to everything, type. That was weird. That one didn't let me type for a minute. Okay. Refresh. And they're all set. Okay, so that does work. That's great. And if I switch this to something else like that, that also works. Okay, so that's good. That's very good. The problem now, though, and once I fix this, I'm going to have to be done. But we made pretty good progress. I didn't actually completely finish this, though. The problem now, though, is we don't have that icon here. And I noticed this before as well, like when we're trying to make that icon hide and show itself. Like if I do a new interval sprints, it's got the icon. But if I switch this to interval sprints, it doesn't have the icon. But if I switch the interval sprints to this, it still doesn't have the icon, or it does. And if I click on that, it's like, so like the link is taking me to the right place. But this is not. It's not updating the state of the button. This is based on has historical. So this is, so this is exactly the same thing. Has historical. So this should not be a X data. It should be an effect. So like this needs to have has historical false. And then we need an X effect. Good to know. Learning things about Alpine. It's not that hard to work around it though, so can't complain too much there. Okay, so now if I switch this to interval sprints, boom. If I switch it to something else, boom. Awesome. And I also noticed, what about this? Switch it to interval sprints, click on this, now switch it to something else, boom. It kind of worked, but it gave me an error. um, like I might actually, what if I just do this? History expanded equals false. Because we don't really want that to be, to stay open when we switch. So like, let's switch here. Okay, well, it didn't really do what I wanted. Maybe the best way to do that actually is with let's just undo what we just did. With another X effect. Like let's do X effect. History expanded equals not set dot exercise. Right? I mean, that should work, right? So like now, if this is open, I switch it to something else. I still get the error. It might be updating it in the wrong order. Let's move this X effect up here. Let's put it in here too. So has historical, history expanded equals not set.exercise, which should just always be, or yeah, always be false, right? I'm kind of curious. So if I now do interval sprints, open it, switch it to something else, it's staying open, which is not really what I expected. That's not going to work because I have two attributes with the same name on the same element. So first of all, history expanded. Where is this defined? It's defined down here. So that should go up here instead. Interval sprint, click. Something else, click. Hey, it's kind of working. Yeah. Okay. And if I switch it to something bad, it still works. No errors. Okay, so that's good. That is good. Now let's try to construct a commit from this mess. Okay. Check. And I'm going to do a commit maybe to like move some shared code into the shared folder. There's like its own commit here. See if that makes sense. So like this stuff is all creating shared code and also refactoring imports, of course. Same thing here, just imports, imports and adjusting things. Here, same thing. Yeah, just imports. validation. So here, let's just stage the imports part and leave the other parts separate for now. Exercises, stage everything. Home, stage everything. Wait, that was kind of weird. Home. Yeah, okay, no, that's fine. Manual, stage everything. Sets, stage all of this. But I don't think we need to stage the new route yet. Or the route update, I should say. Let's do that. Schema, update the imports, exercises, update the imports and move things into shared code. Sets, update the imports. This build sets parameters stuff is not related. This part, though, is and this, I'm just going to stage all of that at once. Okay. Yes. So support or extract some utility functions into shared code for client plus server. Sure. Okay. And then we're going to have just all of this. Let's make sure I don't have any console.logs in weird spots here. Oops. Yeah, like this one. Don't need. That actually isn't even related to what I'm doing, but and we can call this begin supporting min hours and seconds for durations. Note, this commit is a bit broken. Need to update how durations are shown in historical page. Okay. And add this. Remove console.log. All right, so now I'm going to take some notes because otherwise I'm definitely going to forget this. Let me write some stuff down here. So durations other than minutes. This is what we're working on. Updated today page to, or let's have a list of what we need to do still. We need to improve UI of input in today page. We need to test and fix rendering of values in historical page, including table form, aggregate or aggregations, whatever, sure, and charts. And test and fix rendering of values in today page, historical table dropdown. Yeah, so it's kind of some of the main things in order to actually finish this feature. Okay, push my changes. Cool. Well, I think that'll be about it. Thanks, y'all. It's been nice chatting with you. See you next week.